Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. I'm your host, Tina Dawson, the owner of True Blue Designs, and it's truly an honor to be before you this evening. We ask that you like and share and let everyone know that we are on the air, live on Facebook and YouTube. The month of March is very, very important to our firm because it is our anniversary month. And this year we will be celebrating 13 years of servicing our community. And last year on our anniversary, we had a great time. We had the Greek comedy tour that was with us the whole entire month. And Christopher Columbus had introduced comedians every Wednesday. Well, I am here to announce we're going to do it again this March. So, starting the second Wednesday in March, we will have Christopher Columbus and the Greek Comedy Tour back with us to celebrate 13 years of being in business. And I'm not going to tell you the lineup. You have to be there in order to see it. So, this evening, I am so excited to introduce tonight's guest to you. She is someone that I have known for the 13 years. I've known her since we started the business, and I have just seen her through social media just grow. And now she is an attorney. I am so proud of Brittne. She has got a lot of information that she is going to share with you tonight. So get your pencil, get your pens, and be attentive to this young attorney doing great things. While pursuing her law degree at Georgia State University, College of Law, she founded the Family Law Society and served as its first president during the 2012 and 2013 term. Today, she is the proud owner of her own law firm where she specializes in family and civil law. Help me give a warm welcome to tonight's guest, Attorney Brittne Ballenger-Jackson. Hey, Brittne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. I told you my little behind the scenes helping with me today, so I'm trying.
Yes.
You are. It's so good to see you. We haven't seen each other in a while, and you are looking just as beautiful as ever.
Thank you.
You and the family. Thank you for saying yes. It's been a minute. We've been trying to get you on the show, but we.
I know. That was my fault. I'm here.
Well, Brittne, we're gonna let you start off by telling the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Okay. So you mentioned a little bit. I attended law school at Georgia State University College of Law. Before that, I know if you're in the Atlanta scene or into the music scene, there's a lot of debate if you're from Atlanta or if you're not from Atlanta. Well, I can proudly say I am born and raised in Atlanta.
You're a Georgia peach.
Georgia peach, Grady baby, all of that stuff. I went to North Atlanta High School, and that's the APS system. And I went to undergrad at DeVry University. So I didn't actually start in law. I just kind of, found my way there. Still in Georgia, an attorney, barred and licensed to practice in Georgia. And I mean, that's kind of the long and short of it.
So when you were at DeVry, what was the your studies in at first before the law?
Sure. So I received an associate's in electronic computer tech, and I received a bachelor's in technical management. And I feel like you're going to ask me, how did I go from such a major switch? So I always did IT stuff for attorneys or for different firms. I even went out to LexisNexis, and it was still for attorneys, and they really had no idea, how to work a computer. I mean, you told them, there's a button on the tower, and they're like, you mean the monitor? And I'm like, no, it's something under your desk, like hit that button. And they're like, oh, I never paid attention to that. So me being me, I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can do what they do. It seems kind of interesting, but I didn't jump full, all in. I went to Clayton State University and received a paralegal certificate. Okay. And I mean, that was just the beginning journey. I met so many of my law mentors by starting at Clayton State. And I learned what paralegals do, which kind of gave me that background information to what an attorney needs to know. And once I went through that program, I really enjoyed it. And I was like, you know what, this is something I want to do. And I applied for law school after taking, a few other tests, and that's all they wrote.
Wow. So it truly was a journey.
It was, yes. And I will say the great thing about Georgia State and with Atlanta John Marshall, they have a part-time law program. So
okay.
A lot of students, they will go straight from undergrad to law. And I mean, there's no, real world experience. Mm-hmm. But at least these two schools, they recognize that there are some non-traditional students, and I'll be one of them that, mm-hmm. Have already been in the workforce, kind of know what's really going on in the world. So they have like a part-time program. So I went through that, and I'm very grateful. And I met so many friends that I still keep in contact with. And it kind of, to me, seemed a little better because we knew what to expect in the real world, and we could kind of put that spin on it.
Because you've already had that experience.
Yes.
So let's talk about you founding the Family Law Society when you were at Georgia State. Talk about a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah. So kind of like with high school and with college, law school, they have societies. So you'll have that are for different various interests. So you have like the Federalist Society, you have like the Constitution Society, just the Immigration Society, all these different things. But there was no Family Law Society, which I thought was really weird. They had something for like domestic violence, but that's just one small piece of family law. It's not the whole encompassing thing. So I spoke with the president that was over the Domestic Violence Society. It was like, hey, would you be okay if we actually, switch this to the Family Law Society? It would really incorporate a lot more things. You're like, yeah, I'm about to graduate. It's fine. So I put it together, did the petition for it, filled out all the paperwork, and it is still thriving to this day.
Wow, really?
Yes.
So tell us, what was the purpose, goal, or mission of the Family Law Society?
Yeah, so our motto was, family law touches all areas of law, which I really, truly believe is true. I mean, anywhere you look, I mean, even in criminal cases, which is something I don't do, you got to think about the family. If you're doing taxes, you got to think about the families. Business, you got to, I mean, everything you look at, it's going to be around the family. Even if it's just one individual person, you got to take into account all the ramifications. So the purpose of the Family Law Society was to build a place where students and teachers or professors could come together and learn more about that area of law, because family law is unique.
And it sounds like it encompasses a lot.
It does. I mean, you have, you can have like the previous group, it was domestic violence. And if you have that, you may have some restraining orders. Of course, there's the ones that everybody think about, the divorces.
Okay.
And you got to learn how to, do those things. You got to learn about, it's a lot of financial stuff that happens. And as a family law attorney, we will tell you, we don't know all the ramification about the taxes, but it is very financial, especially if you have a long-term marriage that may have some alimony aspects or children. And then there's going to be child support. So you just kind of have to have a well-rounded outlook on everything. And with family law, you also got to be a real counselor. So there's attorneys and counselors at law, because you will have those clients that they just want to stick it to their spouse if they're getting a divorce. They don't care.
Yeah. We see that on divorce court.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've had some crazy experiences. I mean, they'll fight about the pet. Who's going to get the pet? The pet. Yes.
Wow. So the pet is like part of the family. So
it is. And they'll fight about it. And then you have to really kind of ring them in or reel them in, because they'll call you and be like, they were 5 minutes late. And I'm like, well, it's Atlanta traffic. So it's the baby.
Give them a break.
You're good? Okay, because we're charging you for this phone call. Is it really, truly that? Yeah. So, and then one thing that I always tell all of my divorce clients, it hurts now, but the further away you get from it, it's kind of like it's going to heal. And hopefully if you have, kids, you'll learn how to co-parent together and just kind of remove yourself from it. But from right now, it's going to hurt. So
yeah. There's an old adage that time heals all wounds.
Yes.
And that is really true. Someone who has gone through a divorce, if you see me and my kid's father now, it's like we're cousins. And my children are like, man, we remember.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're in a good spot. Don't bring that up.
Don't bring it up.
The past is the past, boo.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure you have some stories about divorce.
Oh my goodness.
So let me ask you this though. So when you got out of school, and of course, you were going to stay in family law because that's where your heart was.
Yes.
How did you determine, because family law is so broad, how did you determine which facets of family law that you were going to use, that you were going to serve or you were going to use your services?
Yeah. And it's very funny because I am what they call a pandemic business. So I started when the pandemic started.
Okay.
And something that is very near and dear to me now that all of this has started is, do what makes you happy. So, I mean, if you were to talk to some of my law mentors, I'm like, man, family law, everyone is not happy. I mean, everyone is angry. They're yelling, they're calling. And sometimes you do just have to take a step back and ask yourself, what are you doing this for? And I really got into family law to help out people. And that's honestly, when you go to law school, you have to write like your interest statement. And I just really wanted to help people. At the time, like back then when I started law school, it was, everybody wanted to be a rapper or something. So I was like, maybe I can go to IP and incorporate, some stuff from DeVry and be an IP attorney. I do a little bit of that, not that much, but it's really what makes you happy. And I mean, I love kids. I want to make sure that their best interest is at the forefront, which is a standard that Georgia courts use, the best interest of the children. So it's really just wanting to help out families, help out children, help out people. And I mean, there's a lot of people that just don't know where to start or don't know what to do. I mean, I've had some clients that they'll come to me and they're just like, I was in this marriage. The other person controlled all the assets and I don't even know where to start. Right. So you just got to really, be compassionate to them, be empathetic. And like, what, there's tools designed to help us find out what we need to know. So I'm going to, be there for you and we'll get through it. So with you saying that, I did want to also get into an aspect of family law that a lot of people don't think about, which is the happy side of family law, we call it, which are adoptions. And yes, adoptions. And then another up and coming thing is artificial reproductive technology.
Okay, now what's that?
Yes. So artificial reproductive technology is like, with surrogacy. If you need someone to, carry the baby for you, a gestational carrier, or if you just need like a contract for the genetic material, just helping again create families. So those are two aspects that I got into. And adoption is, creating a family with a person that's already here. So I love those two areas. Those are what we call kind of like the happy area of family law. So it's really just helping people create the family that they want.
So let me ask you this, because you just talked about something I didn't know. So about the adoption. See, I didn't know that. So are a lot of the adoptions that you're familiar with, the cases, are they like domestic cases? Or I've seen on, I don't know how true it is, but you see on TV where, someone may adopt a child from another country or something like that, do you work just domestically, or do you work in those different types of arenas too?
Yeah, so those are the international adoptions. Those are, yes, a few more hoops to go into. I have not done international adoptions yet. So I do mostly local, which can, encompass, different states, but just in the United States. So I do the domestic adoptions, and then I do like the step parent adoptions. And Georgia, Georgia really hasn't said about what's called third-party adoptions. So I'm actually working on something now to hopefully, sway them into, accepting that. Because before same-sex marriage was legal, they did allow it. But now that it's legal, courts are kind of like, so do we still do this, or do we not do that? So that's something that could be coming down the pipe.
Yeah, that, it sounds like the courts are trying to feel their way through the changes in our society, just like we are, And I would say family law is one of the last, it's behind. You read some of the laws and statutes, and it's like, that definitely needs to be updated. So it's ever changing. Yeah. I kind of consider law is the practice of law, kind of like medicine is the practice of medicine, because we gotta it changes. It does. Yeah. And it seems like things change so rapidly. Sometimes the laws are dragging behind, because things change so drastically.
Right. Even with this whole marijuana thing, like some states say it's okay, other states are like, nah. And still with the federal government, they just haven't chosen to, weigh in on it. They're just kind of turning a blind eye.
They don't want to deal with it.
Right. They're just like, all right, whatever. So everything is always changing.
Yeah, and we know what it looks like when people want to take their hands off.
Right.
When they don't want to deal with it,
Not me.
Let's talk about something else is what they do. Or pivot and do the like the smoke and mirrors kind of thing, turn your attention over here because they really don't want to deal with this. So, like, I understand.
This is what we're doing.
I totally understand that. Yes. So you talked a little bit about intellectual property. So let's define, just for the viewers, just in case they don't know, what is intellectual property and how can you help people with that?
Yes. So in the terms of the law, there's three, overreaching parts of intellectual property law. You have the patents, you have the trademarks, and you have the copyrights.
Okay.
With patents, you have to have an engineering degree, which I don't have. So I don't do the patent stuff, but I do assist with trademarks and copyrights. And the way you kind of look at the three is like a patent is something that protects your invention. A trademark is something that protects your design. So like your logo is something that you'll want to trademark. And under trademark, there's different items like, a word mark versus a logo, or a trade dress, which is like, if you go into a McDonald's, they all look the same. So that could be something that's under like the trade dress, or, a trade secrets, which is like, the Kentucky Fried Chicken stuff. Then there's the copyright, which is like the works of art. So you have your books, your music, some dances. All of those are would be considered, intellectual property. So I help out with the trademark areas and with the copyright areas. And an interesting fact about intellectual property law is that it is federal. So those are, federal cases we're dealing with. You're dealing with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, the Copyright Office. So it's nowhere local, but everything is still, it's online. So you go through the system and you can upload your application and deal with everything there. But that's the federal. Those are that's the federal law are the ones that mandate and take care of those items.
So let me ask you a question about this. So when Coca-Cola or big come to Home Depot or Lowe's, right? These big companies, I'm I'm sure they probably have an intellectual property division, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
some, a whole division dealing with their brand, right?
Yeah.
So they have the manpower to go after someone, right? For copyright infringement or trademark infringement. But as a small business owner, what avenues do you have, or what, how easily is it for a small business to go after people as far as, copyright or trademark infringement versus, these big companies? They have the manpower, they have the money behind it, but, how can we, as small business owners, how can we protect our brand after we do get a trademark or a copyright?
Yeah. So it's always about proof. And that is something you learn in law. So you got to have your proof. You got to have the evidence. So I always say keep all of your documents in a safe and secure place. So when you register your trademark, it's going to have, the date of first use. It's going to have your certificate when it was actually registered. Those are the main pieces of information. And then they don't police your mark. You're in charge of doing that. So if you do see, you're someone else using your logo, or, have your friends on the lookout, and they can call you up and like, hey, I think so-and-so is doing this. I mean, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It's easy to send, maybe start small. Reach out to the person, be like, hey, that's my intellectual property that you're using. I would appreciate if you take it down. Some people may not have known, or maybe they knew and they didn't think they would get caught, and they're just like, you know what? Okay, cool, whatever. I'll switch it. I actually saw something like that. One of my friends, their photo was being used on a different website that they didn't want it to be on. And so they kind of reached out and was like, hey, what's going on here? But they just reached out to I think it was on Instagram. They just reached out to the Instagram place, and then they switched it. So it didn't have to go any further. However, if they, are just standing around and like, no, I'm going to keep it up here. What are you going to do about it? That's when maybe you can send, I would say still try, your best to keep it reasonable. Maybe send like a certified letter. If it's a registered business and they're in the state of Georgia, all businesses are registered on the Secretary of State website. So you can go there, send a certified letter to the agent and be like, look, last chance. Some people, they just don't think you're going to be real until you get an attorney on it. And that's when we can send an official, cease and desist letter. And then if they just, don't want to comply, then you have to, file a trademark infringement case and bring them up to court. And then maybe, just maybe, they'll then stop. And if not, then they'll be hit with some damages in the form of, monetary damages. And, they'll learn their lesson that way. So it doesn't have to, start off pulling out the big guns. You can always start small and just, protect yourself, think logically about it, but it's all about that paperwork. So make sure you have your paperwork, and going through those steps, you'll build a paper trail. Like, look, judge, I really didn't want to be in front of you, or, my client really didn't want to be in front of you, but here we are.
Right. So let me ask you this, one more question on this topic. So what if someone tweaked your design, right? It's not totally the same, but you know that they took your design and tweaked it. There's a small change in it. Is that something that you could go after them for, or?
Yeah, well, let me rephrase that. It depends. Because how small of a change are we talking about? Like looking at your design, if they change maybe just the colors of the dots at the bottom, no, that's still essentially the same. But it's a case by case basis. It's something that I would have to look at, or you would have to look at, because it's all about protecting your brand, and you don't want your brand diluted. So is it something that kind of makes you uncomfortable? Then maybe it's worth, having an attorney look at it. If it's, something that you kind of think it might be yours, but you're kind of not sure, then maybe they've changed it enough. But then you can go and take a look at what they do. Do they sell the same product as you? Do they offer the same services as you? Are they in the same location? It all takes a lot of different just factors. Each
Okay.
case is different. Mm-hmm.
Okay, each case is different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if you have any questions about intellectual property, call Brittne.
Yes, yes.
All right, we're going to talk about civil law.
Yes.
Can you define to us what is civil law?
Yes. So in the broadest sense possible, you have your criminal cases where, they have broken a law. Even I kind of throw traffic citations over there because it is, it's a small criminal thing. It's traffic ordinances. But then you have the murders, the break-ins, all of that stuff. I don't do that. Right. So I just never had an interest in it. So then there's the civil things that which I broadly define as everything else. So like with family law, it's kind of civil. Again, it can have some close to criminal aspects to it in the forms of restraining orders. But honestly, literally everything else I consider civil. And then if you want to break it down even more, there's transactional attorneys, which are the attorneys that don't really go into court a lot. And then there's the litigators, which are the ones that's going to, go to court often, go in front of the judge, argue a case, pick a jury, all of that, which I have done. It is very tiring. But like, this is what I went to school for. And I've actually, seen it and done it. So what I do a little bit of both on the civil side. So of course, family law, you're litigating that. Then with trademarks, it may get litigated if there's an infringement case. It may not get litigated if you're just trying to register a trademark or, register a copyright. Then there's what else I do? I do bankruptcy, which is also federal, and it's very paperwork intensive. That too, depending on what exactly you're looking for, it may have a case, may not, or be in front of a judge, like litigating it, or it may not. And then I also do wills. So wills and trusts, which is very transactional. I mean, if I were to, probate the will, then I would, be in front of the judge with it. But just creating the wills and creating the trust is more transactional. And I would, tell everybody what they need in order to make a will valid in the state of Georgia.
Right. Okay. So I'm glad you got on the topic of wills.
Okay.
I'm glad you did. Because I'm have to look up the statistics, but I'm sure that it's on a high number of people that pass away and don't have the correct documents, with COVID, where, in the probably in the millions of people who have passed away. And I'm sure a lot of the families have had to deal with that. Yes. That mom, dad, sister, brother, family member did not have the proper documents, so that they can handle their wishes. Let's talk about how important it is for people to have their legal documents in order. And if you could give us an example of, this is what can happen in this scenario when you do have it in order, and this is what can happen in this scenario if you don't have it in order. Yes.
So it's very important because, a lot of people in, kind of the older generation are like, look, I ain't got nothing. I don't need a will. But that's farthest from the truth because not only does it help, because emotions are running high. And when someone passes away, people aren't thinking straight. It's just like, what happened? It's devastating. So a will can definitely cut down on that. It's your wishes, what you want to happen. And let's just say, even if you don't have anything, you can at least direct people to know where maybe you had a bank account. What do you want with, whatever's in the bank account? How do you want your body to be disposed of? Do you want any special, services? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to, be donated to science? Whatever it is, you can put that in your will. Even if it's something short, it doesn't have to be, a 10-page document. It could be, 1 page, 2 pages, or whatever it is. So it just really cuts down on people having to search for what you may or may not have had.
Okay.
So, especially if you do have a lot of, funds or items or just, personal things, you have to have a will, because then, families will start fighting over the smallest thing. I mean, especially if you have a lot of items, that's when, unfortunately, greed comes out, tensions are running high. You may have, you hear about it when celebrities pass. It's like, I'm your kid that you never knew about. A will can cut a lot of that out, especially if, like, whoever is not listed in this will, I intentionally, omit it. They're not getting anything. And, there are some sad scenarios where somebody was married, then they became estranged. Each person just went their separate ways, but they never, got a divorce, and they didn't have a will. So in Georgia, that person that was the ex, or should have been ex, would be entitled to, the person who's passed away, their stuff, because the laws of intestate succession in Georgia, it goes to the spouse. So
now would they have had to been married for a certain number of years?
No. So
no.
I think you're thinking about community property. In Georgia, it's not just community property.
Okay.
I know, like, some places like California, I think, if they're married for like 10 years or something.
That's what I was talking about.
Then it's 50%. But Georgia, we are equitable division. And what I find myself saying all the time, equitable division does not mean a fair division. Equal division. So equitable means equal. Yes. So,
oh wow. So it could be 1 year, it could have been 30 days, it could have been,
if it's 30, they're still going to be, if it's a short-term marriage, like 30 days, and then someone just dies, you might look into that a little bit. Like, okay, did you kill the person?
Right.
Was it like this millionaire? You may want to take a look into that a little bit. But if you're the wife, then, or the husband, then you're in the eyes of the law, you're the spouse. So it's going to go to you. So in that case, that I would really see some family members getting upset, saying, she just got into marriage, or he just got into marriage, they shouldn't get anything. So, whenever you have a major life event, a marriage, a divorce, a birth of a child, someone passes away, it's always good to update your will, because then it just makes it a lot easier. And you can even add on what's called a self-proving affidavit, which cuts down on even more litigation, because it
say that again.
A self-proving affidavit.
Self-proving affidavit.
Affidavit. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. So in Georgia, in order for a will to be valid, it must be in writing. It must be signed by the testator, which is the will maker, and 2 uninterested witnesses. So if you're leaving something to cousin A and cousin B, you don't want cousin A or cousin B being a witness to your will. You need somebody who has no interest in it. So, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Because then it's like, okay, of course you're going to say this will is valid because you were getting all of this stuff here. So it must be in writing. You need 2 uninterested witnesses. And then with the self-proven affidavit, it also adds a notarization aspect to it.
Wow. So you just corrected me, because I was always told that it was the 10-year rule, right? That you had to be married to the person for 10 years before you could get anything. But that's not true in Georgia.
No, we're not community property. No.
Okay, and that's called community property state. Okay.
That's probably what they were referring to. Yeah.
Okay. See, I did not know that. I'm sure the people on this broadcast didn't know this. See, we got some comments on here.
Okay.
Okay, let's get a question in. Yeah. I looked at the comments and I'm like, it's loaded. Okay, so let's do Felicia Arnold. She says, hi, Sarah. If a father is having a problem with seeing their children, specifically in the state of Georgia, what type of attorney should they seek? That's a good question.
Yep. They would definitely want to seek a family law attorney, because just reading that and not knowing anything else, I automatically have questions. Was the father and the mother, were they married? Because if they were married at the time of the birth of the children versus if they weren't married, there are some different things we have to do. And just as a kind of overall, each case is different. Again, I don't know anything about this case, but if the father wasn't married to the mom,
she just said never married.
Never married. So then there's another set of questions. So, did the father ever legitimate the children? Because in Georgia a few years ago, I can't remember the exact amount of years, it's been at least 7. Georgia changed the law saying that even if you sign the birth certificate, that doesn't make you the legal father. And there's a difference between the biological father and the legal father. So that they would definitely need to seek a family law attorney so that the attorney could get some more information, some more questions, because it may be a process where they need to get legitimized, and then they would need to petition for visitations.
Wow. Yeah. And like you said, we were talking about this earlier today, that every situation is different, right? So, when it comes to family law, civil law, really any type of law, right? You can give a general, explanation, but it's not until you start pulling back the layers of that particular person's case where you find out that, no, you can't do this. I got to that way. But like you said, they need a family law attorney.
Yes.
Okay. So Nicole said, hey, Nicole. She said, Brittne helped me with my will, and she is awesome to work with. I haven't seen her in a while.
Yes. Hey, Nicole.
Thank you for being on the show, Nicole. That was awesome for tuning in. That is awesome. Okay. So we have another question. Let's see. So what if there is a will in that situation, but the person's still married, but they've been separated for years?
So if there's a will, first we need to know what the will says. I'm going to assume that this will made provisions for the spouse who is now separated.
Okay.
So if the will maker or the testator, if they've never revoked or redone a will, that will is still valid. So that goes back to whenever there's a major event, you need to update your will. Right. So the will currently, from what we know, is still valid.
Right. Okay. I have a question for you, Brittne, because I just thought about this based on what you said. I have some friends that work in HR in different departments, and they specifically work in the benefits department. Right? And before COVID, there were a lot of situations where people were putting in their paperwork to retire. And two things happened, not all the time, but two things kind of happened. They put in their paperwork to retire, and either A, they died before the date of retirement, or B, they died shortly after the retirement, right? And in some of these situations, they never checked on their benefits.
Oh my goodness.
So, you know where I'm going with this?
Yes.
So they never changed or even looked at their beneficiaries. So by the time they passed, things had changed for years.
Yes.
And then they end up having Sarah being a beneficiary, and they fell out with Sarah 20 years ago. How important is it for people to at least, when your annual enrollment comes up, check it? How important is it for people to stay upon their benefits and their beneficiaries, whether you're working or not? Because if you have a life insurance policy outside, you still need to check your beneficiaries, right? And I think this goes back to what you said 4 times. If you have a key life event, you have to make sure you check those documents. So speak a little bit on that.
Yes, and I do counsel everyone when I make their wills, like if they do have a life insurance policy or health benefits, pensions, those are contracts. So whoever you have listed on there, you want to make sure that you check it and make sure it's up to date, because in the will I can put that so-and-so has a pension plan from this place, and on the pension plan, it is X, Y, and Z. Because those contracts, they're still going to be valid. So yeah, it is very sad that a lot of people, you know, you kind of, when you get a job, whatever, you sign up and then that's kind of it. You don't think of it again. But it's worth checking out every year. Like when they send out the email that says enrollment, like, you know what? Did I have some changes? I think I need to make sure that I have who I want on my beneficiary plan. So it's very important because, I mean, once you're gone, it's standing. It can't be changed. It is what it is.
Right. So let me ask you this, piggybacking on that, right? So you have the beneficiary on the job insurance, right? And then you have the will, right? So they're two separate entities, correct? Because the will won't override this because it's a separate entity, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so they kind of work together. So yeah, so again, that will let everyone know what you have. It can make for some provisions, but it can't make for, you know, like the contracts and things. So let's just say you have like you know, a cousin who's really not social or whatever, but they have, you know, you don't know all of their business, but they can put it in the will, and that kind of guides and lets people know, instead of going on wild goose chases, or, you know, you just have money sitting out there and then eventually it goes back, you know, to the state or whatever. So they work hand in hand with everything. And then if you want to throw another one in there, then you have various trusts. And trust.
I'll ask you about that. Yes, let's get into trust. Let's get into trust. Difference in a will and a trust. Come on, Brittne, bring it.
So the will is definitely for when after you pass. A trust, you have a lot more control on how you want things to happen. So let's just say, and there are a lot of trusts. I mean, you have special needs trust, you have living trust. One of the famous people that come to mind is, you know, Michael Jackson. He had what's called a pour over will, where, you know, I have a will and I'm leaving everything to my trust. Trusts are private documents. They're not public. You can't go find it. They're private. So it allows for a lot more security and privacy. So like in a trust, if you want to, you know, provide for a special needs kid, you can put in here, you know, I want so-and-so to be the provider or the trustee of the trust. And this is who I want to be the guardian of the kid, you know, give, you know, $5,000 every 6 months over a course of, you know, X amount of years. So it really gives you more hands-on with providing what you want to happen with your money or your estate after you're gone.
Okay, and then so you won't really find out what's in the trust until the attorney reads it, right? Is that how it works?
So again, I don't do the real probate of it.
So
probate. That is usually when it comes to light, because, you know, you don't just go around saying, hey, here, come read my will or read my trust. Depending on the type of trust it is, it very well could be. But again, I don't do the probate part of it just because I have all these other things going on.
Okay, so but the main thing is wills are public knowledge, right? And trusts are secret.
They are. Yep, they provide for a lot more privacy.
Okay, now can you put a will in a trust?
You can put the trust. So you can leave. Let me see. Now I'm getting confused. So you can you can have a will, and everything in your will goes to the trust.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Okay. So Felicia has a follow-up statement. Yeah. She said the will is updated with the new girlfriend, but he was never divorced. Is the wife still entitled since no divorce, or the will supersedes everything?
So that is a loaded question. And I'm gonna have Felicia give me a call or have him give me a call. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot. I had like 3 different questions pop in my mind. So
but you know what, Brittne, that does happen, because I know that there's a small town, I'm not going to name it, in Georgia, where I know several people who their mother or father separated, okay, and they have moved on.
Yeah.
The mother has moved on. The dad has moved on.
Mm-hmm.
They both have established another family, and they both have have a new mate, and they're both sometimes they have kids, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But these two never divorced.
Mm-hmm. See, that is a lot going on. I mean, just in general, I mean, the spouse, they are protected to an extent just under the laws of Georgia.
Under the law that we just found out. Yeah.
Yes, because Georgia and a lot of states, it's beneficial for them to have a family unit, because then they can be like, y'all got it. We don't have to worry about you all too much. When it comes to, it's still a legal binding contract. The marriage is a contract, so
marriage is a contract.
It's a marital contract. So you have to deal with that. And when that contract is still in place, but the parties are not acting like it's in place, it's still there. It doesn't just go away. So the best interest is to just handle all of your legal affairs and then move on. Just kind of cut the ties, because then, I mean, just generally speaking, I mean, she can make a claim for whatever because she's, the wife or the husband. Yeah. So it's a lot of tricky things going on there. A lot of things working.
And I'm sure that is common. Because, but now we know.
Yes.
You're the family law attorney.
Yes. And I do the wills too. So they want to call me.
I can only imagine. Just like you said, just from watching divorce court and some other stuff, I can only, imagine.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So now you did mention that your office offers a lot of services, right? Yes. So my question is, what method do you use to prioritize your case so you don't get maybe more of one than the other? So how do you do that?
Yeah. So that's why a lot of attorneys, they'll do consultations, and I do consultations too. Because when you hear a problem, you can already be thinking in your mind, is this something that I have the space or the time to take on? And if you don't, you want to be upfront and be like, you know what, I don't have the space right now. I can't give you the attention that your case needs. However, I can refer you to so and so. So those consultations are beneficial. So I don't mind, I do things again that make me happy. So family law, the happy side of family law, the other side of family law, trademarks, will, bankruptcy. Those are all near and dear to my heart. I don't mind doing those. Now, there are times when, things are due at the same time. So in litigation, especially in the family law, if you have, if you need to be in Clayton County and, up in Hall County or Henry County, whatever, there's a thing you can submit to the court called, a conflict letter. And the courts, they have spaces like, hey, which one is more important? Which one has been on the docket longer? Is one a jury trial? Maybe one is just a quick status conference that maybe your paralegal can send a letter to the court or something. So same with me, what is due? So whatever is due first, that is what I'm working on, because I don't want to miss a deadline. If I got to prepare for a hearing, then you know what, I'm pushing everything off for a little bit and I'm working on that hearing, because I don't want to look like a fool in front of the judge. Ain't my style right there. So it's just really, I look at it as urgency. What is most urgent? What has the deadline coming up? What's going to take a lot of time? And so, weekly I'll look at, the caseload, and I pretty much have a good handle on what I need. Because again, a lot of stuff is, transactional. So you definitely want to get them out, but they may not be, the most urgent thing. Or bankruptcy, once you submit your petition to the court, waiting on the court to tell you when you're going to have your meeting with the creditors. And you're just waiting for that. Family law, it goes up and down. You may have a hearing, you may have some status hearings in Fulton County. They have a special family law court, so you're going to have 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, 120-day hearings. So you just know that those are coming. And then in the meantime, you're still doing your discovery. So it's really just about what's due, what's most urgent.
Right. Do you service just the Metro Atlanta area? I mean, I know that you're licensed in the entire state,
Mm-hmm.
but have you just serviced the Metro Atlanta area, or have you gone up past some these smaller rural areas?
Yes, and I have been all over the state.
Okay.
And before I started my firm, I did travel everywhere. I mean, I was down in Albany, Georgia. I was up in Whitfield County, Chattooga County, just everywhere. And it was fun. It was fun, but it was tiring.
Yeah.
My poor car.
But let me ask you this though. So when you're in different counties, is there different rules in different county, or is there just an overall state law?
So overall, there are, the rules of Georgia, the OCGA official code of Georgia annotated. That is the law for Georgia.
Okay.
However, you can, this is Georgia, some northern counties, they have, this is how we've done things, and this is how we're going to keep doing things. And then I know down in Macon, oh my goodness, the way they have their calendar set, you have to jump through hoops in order to get your case in front of a judge. So really? It's not, they're not breaking the law. They're following the laws, but their local rules are like, look, you got to do A, B, C, and D if you want to get in front of the judge. So if you don't do A, B, C, or D, you got to wait till the next turn comes around.
Wow.
So, it's and then down in Albany, sometimes they'll let you do remote hearings. And now since the pandemic has started, a lot of places, even the metro places, do remote hearings. But they all know each other. So then they're looking at you like, oh, here comes this city girl coming in here. What is she going to talk about? And I will never forget that one of the first law firms I worked for, they told you, like, hey, if you're in Metro Atlanta, whatever, I'll put on my, not me, but they will put on, their Armani suit or whatever. But if they're going down to, to a small town country, I'm gonna go to Walmart and get me a suit, and I'm gonna fit in.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. All about perspective. So now I just service Metro Atlanta because, I don't want to be driving everywhere. I have, a family and all of that. So Metro Atlanta, I got you. Outside of that, I can find somebody for you.
But you know what? First of all, you paid your dues.
Right. I have done my time. That's probably why I had to get another car. I was like, I'm done.
No, you weren't done. The car was done.
Yeah.
And that's good. And I'm glad you said that you refer out, which is awesome, right? Because it's like, if I can't do it, then let me send you to somebody that I know that can take care of you.
Yeah. And going back to that, I will say family law is where you're really traveling a lot. But with trademarks, again, with that being federal and with bankruptcy being federal, well, trademarks I can do wherever. Bankruptcy, there are different districts. So we get into the federal district, the northern, middle, and southern district of Georgia. The northern district of Georgia is downtown Atlanta. The middle district, I forgot what that is, but I'll go there. Because again, it's not like a everyday thing. But southern district, I don't go that far. So the bankruptcy, I'll stop at the middle district. And then trademarks is kind of all over, wills are all over, and then family law is definitely just the metro area. But yes, I'm not afraid to refer you out because I don't want a bar complaint against me. And the number one bar complaint is my attorney is not giving me the time that I want. They're not returning my calls, they're not returning my emails. They didn't know what they were doing. So if it goes back to the other question, if I don't have the space on my plate to give you the time you need, it's fine. There are hundreds of attorneys in the Metro Atlanta area, which again, I'm friends with a lot of them. They'll send some stuff to me. I'll send some stuff to them. It's what's best for the client.
Right. Okay. So if someone is looking to interview a family law or civil law attorney, what are some key things that we should think about or ask or want to or need to know from that person?
So one of the questions was what you just asked me. Where do you travel? Because
Okay.
if I'm going somewhere where you don't go, I'm not wasting my time on the phone with you. It's a
Right.
moot point. And then you just want to make sure you're really compatible with them. So you don't want, I mean, you're building a relationship, you're building a rapport. So you want to make sure you vibe together, that you understand what their rules are. Some cases, you don't get to talk to the attorney until, it's time for trial. Are you okay with that? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Maybe the paralegal is cheaper and you're fine with that. But you just really want to make sure you know who you're dealing with. As far as family law cases, you also want to know, are they comfortable taking your case? Have they possibly dealt with this before? Have you been in front of the judge before? And judges, they rotate. So maybe, do you work in this county? So you really just want to get a good feel for them. And, honestly, listen to your gut. If you feel like something was off, maybe you don't want to go with them. Look them up online. Do they have any reviews? Have your friends heard of them? Just really, it's all about, meshing and making sure that they fit with you. And you want to make sure that, again, they have the space for it, because there have been some cases where it's like, hey, I haven't heard from them. I don't know what's going on. And then you have to go through a whole withdrawal process. You got to see if you can get a refund. And that's another point. You want to see what their hourly rate is, how they bill, because you need a budget for it. Because we have loans too. Right. So you want to make sure it's something that you can afford. It's all around. It's like, making a friend, but on a professional level. So you want to make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah, well, it's relationship based, right? It's about relationships. So like you said, you have to make sure that you actually fit with that person, and if the person can meet your need or whatever you want. You mentioned several times through the broadcast about paralegals. Can you define what is a paralegal and what type of services can they offer?
Yes. So paralegals, they're the blood to the law firm. They really help the attorney out. They can draft documents. They can talk to clients. They can help make sure the attorney knows where they're going, especially if it's a week where you have 3 cases that week. They can do a lot of things, but they cannot give legal advice. That is something that they cannot do. So they can take down a message if it requires legal advice, and they can pass it to the attorney, but they cannot give legal advice. But they really make the law firms work. So they're doing a lot of the hard work.
Administrative. Okay.
Yes. And not even administrative just yet, but they'll draft the documents. They can review the documents. They can get it ready for a legal look by the attorney.
Okay, because I know you mentioned them several times. I know some people that are paralegals, and you're right. They are the heartbeat to that firm. And when those attorneys want to do extra things for Christmas and stuff like that, that paralegal usually gets spoiled because they really understand that that's the heartbeat.
Yeah, they will make or break. Even that was something I always give, the utmost respect, because even as a young lawyer, there's paralegals that's been doing what they've been doing longer than I've been practicing.
Wow.
So they can really make or break you. They can make it really easy for you, or they can make it hard for you. So it's like the golden saying, treat others how you want to be treated. Just because you have a lot of greed, you have to go waving it around. In fact, that's the easiest way to make enemies, even amongst
So can paralegals draft up documents and then charge for it? Can they have their own little services that they do?
So it's not their own services, but it is under the firm. So they will have an hourly rate for the billable hour, but it's going to be less than the attorney's rate for the billable hour. So if it was a bigger firm, you'll see hey, the paralegal did this and then the attorney did that. So it's not their own thing, but it's in the process of the firm itself.
Okay. So they can also bring in business to the firm too.
Yeah, and they'll probably get a bigger, thank you gift at the end of the year.
And Merry Christmas to my paralegal.
Right.
All right, we're almost to the end of the show. Everybody has been great. If we have good questions and We got it. Oh, this is so sweet. It says, "Hi, Brittany. We're so very proud of you. Great information, Uncle Dennis and
Thank
Auntie
you.
Lisa. Thank you all for watching the
you.
show. That is awesome." And then, Vicky, you talked about Albany, so she
yes. Don't get on me too bad. I probably didn't say it right.
When I saw that comment, I fell out laughing.
Yes.
Some people come out the woodwork when you mention certain things, and you can't say anything bad about Albany because Vicky gonna say something.
Right. And just best believe, I was like, girl, I gotta go to this courthouse. Where is it, and what do I need to do?
And she helped you out, didn't she?
Sure did. Yes.
Yeah, she did. So before we end the show, Brittany, can you give some nuggets or some last minute information that you would like the viewers to take away?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I would say if you have a legal issue, it never hurts to at least get a consultation from an attorney, because this is what we went to school for. There are a lot of laws in place, and there is a saying that ignorance of the law does not make you, banned from the law. You still have to follow it. So it doesn't hurt to hire an attorney, or at least do a consultation with an attorney, and just have all your legal affairs in order. Because once you leave, that's it. And it can either, make or break a family. They're either going to fight and hate each other, or you're going to have a decent, smooth sailing. So make sure your legal affairs are in order, and don't be afraid to reach out to an attorney.
Right. And you know what, Brittany, I'm going to piggyback on this. I was at church one day, and I heard our pastor say that one of the biggest way that you can show your family how much you love them is to get your documents in order. Right. And then he also said that sometimes we are afraid to live and experience things because we don't have our documents in order. And if you really want true freedom, get your documents in order. And I'm going to say this to the listening audience tonight. You have Attorney Brittne Ballenger-Jackson that is here to help you. The reason why I started doing the show was so that I could create a platform of expression so that people can tell who they are, what they do, and give the inside perspective of what they know. I know a lot of people, but this is a platform where I can share who I know with the world. And the YouTube channel is supposed to be used as a resource hub. Everything that you need is on the YouTube channel. So I'm going to, just invite everybody to go to the True Blue Designs YouTube channel, click subscribe, click the notification bell so you can be alerted to upcoming content. But you have people like Brittany that are willing to come before you to share their knowledge and to be an open book and say, hey, I can't answer all the questions on the show, but everybody's situation is unique. And she is willing to give you a consultation, to talk to you, to say either A, I can help you, or B, I can refer you out. But the help is there. Let's not let another person pass and we don't even encourage them or point them to the right direction so they can get their legal documents in order. I know death is something, Brittany, that we just don't want to talk about, especially as a race and a culture. Yeah. But we've got to start having these conversations. We really do. And I just thank you for being a part of the tribe. I thank you for your friendship. I thank you for letting me catch you to get you on the show. You busy. I know. You busy.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me and staying on me to get on here.
Look, but you gave us a lot of good information. And like I said, there was questions that I had that, I needed answered. And like I said, that community property state. Is that the one about the divorce thing?
Yeah. And Georgia is not.
And Georgia is not a community property. So that tells you, stop listening to people.
Right.
Because I have been told that all my life, and now until you came on the show that I know that was wrong.
Yeah.
So thank you, Brittany.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, this is Tina Dawson, the owner of True Blue Designs, and I thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's show. We will see you next Wednesday, same time, same place. Good night, everybody. time.